So I have an exciting video here for you today. Galaxy Note 10 Plus versus the iPhone XS Max performance test. We're going to be running some boot times, launching apps, doing some multitasking, running some benchmarks, etc. And to those of you, you know, my Apple people, I love you all, but to those of you who doubt the Note 10, you're like, oh, it's a Samsung, and Samsung's slow. Ugh. Let me tell you something. This phone is not to be messed with, and we're going to see why. But before we continue here, I'd really appreciate it if you leave a like on this video, comment if you have any questions, suggestions, or opinions, as the algorithm likes that and will help push my content to more people. Also, I want to apologize because for some f***ed up reason, the audio that I recorded externally decided to just jumble itself. I mean, literally just, it's all like, and it's not going to let me like sync it up manually, let alone automatically. I know that washing machine is super loud, my bad. So yeah, we're going to have to stick with the on-camera audio to my joy. You know, I'm just so happy right now. You could not even imagine how happy I am. But yeah, I'll get the audio situation figured out for the next video. So without further ado, let's begin here. So here we have the Note 10 Plus alongside the XS Max. As we know, both are top dogs in the smartphone industry. They're flagships in their own right. I have all the apps closed here, and I'm actually going to restart each phone to clear the RAM, and that will give us the opportunity to see which one boots first. So with both these phones powered off, I'm not going to carefully power them on. This is totally not my fourth attempt, and we're going to see which phone boots first. So all right. This finally worked. I swear I tried this like 4 times and the iPhone wouldn't boot. Oh. All right. So yeah, clearly the XS Max is faster at booting, but not by much. I mean, the Note 10 followed very soon after, so take that whichever way you will. So next up, let's compare biometrics, you know, unlocking your phone. So actually with the Note 10 Plus, you get a fingerprint sensor, an ultrasonic one, which is under the screen, unlike with the XS Max. So I'm just gonna test that by itself, and it's fairly quick and accurate. Sometimes it misses. It's not as fast as the OnePlus 7 Pros, but it's still pretty good. Both of these phones, however, have facial recognition, albeit Apple's is much more secure with the Face ID tech, and I'm sorry for the shift here. I had to change a battery in my camera. Fun times. So let's see how fast it takes for these phones to recognize my face. I'm going to turn both these phones on, watch for the lock icon here, and that was about the same. The XS Max took a little bit longer, but I assume that's because, you know, there's more involved with scanning your face with Face ID. Let's do it again here. And as you can see, the same result. This was a little bit quicker, this was a little bit slower. But once again, you have to factor in that Face ID is much more secure. And of course, the ultrasonic fingerprint sensor is the main method you're gonna want to unlock your Note 10 with for the sake of security. I also want to mention, because I can already feel comments about this coming before they've even been posted, I did not touch the animations during this test. I didn't, you know, change it to 0.5 or 0x on the Note, and I did not turn on reduced motion with the iPhone simply because A, I don't find it enjoyable, and I don't think users are going to find it enjoyable to use a phone without animation. That's for people who are like absolutely crazy about like performance. And secondly, I did try it and it did not make that much of a difference. Not a noticeable difference for me. You know, apps still loaded consistently on both these devices. So before you even think about typing a comment about that, no, it does not make that much of a difference. So now that we're in both these phones, we can finally start launching some apps. As you can see here, I have everything closed out. I even, you know, restarted them again just to make sure they're on an equal playing field. So they're connected to the same Wi-Fi network. You know, nothing is different in terms of any, you know, variables you can think of. So the first app I'm going to open is Spotify. And as you can see, it launched faster on the Note 10 Plus here. So let's close out of that. Next up, let's open Chrome here. I'm going to search it here and launch. Boop. And that was about the same. I mean, this is loading up. That might have been a Wi-Fi thing, but yeah, pretty much the same time, I would say. So now that we're on the Google homepage, let's look at my Social Blade stats here. And that loaded quicker on the Note 10 here. Same Wi-Fi network once again, no difference in internet connection, but still, you know, pretty smooth experience in the web. Let's go back home here. How about we open Amazon? That loaded quicker here. Let's tap on this T5 link. A little bit quicker on the Note 10 once again. Let's tap on the cart. And that loaded quicker on the Note 10 once again here. Hint, hint, a DeX setup video, so stay tuned for that. Next up, let's open Google Maps. And again, it is quicker on the Note 10 Plus here. Next up, let's try the YouTube app. and it was a bit faster on the Note 10. Once again, let's load up a video here. Let's go to trending and tap on the D23 special look. Basically no difference. It might have been a little bit faster on the iPhone. I may have fast forwarded a little faster on the iPhone, but yeah, in terms of YouTube, not too much of a difference there, even with launching videos. Yeah, let's make so much noise. Let's make even more noise. Let's make so much noise. Next up, let's open up Instagram. And once again here, it loaded up quicker on the Note 10. Let's go to my page. A little faster on the iPhone XS Max. Let's go home. Back to there. Let's go to the search. Same amount of speed. Let's go home. Here's the notification panels on both. Pretty smooth. Here is the app switcher. Obviously, we can kind of go through and see how smooth things are going. We're not going to open any apps from the switcher just yet. Next up, let's launch settings. Pretty much the same, a little bit quicker on the Note 10. Let's launch phone next. Pretty much the same there. Next up, let's launch calculator. Basically the same, a very light app. Next up, let's open up, the app stores on both of these devices. And the Play Store loaded much more quickly than the App Store here. I always found the App Store to be a little bit slower than the Play Store. That's just a thing with, iOS and Android. Next up, I'm gonna open the cameras on both of these devices here. So we're gonna raise the Note 10 a bit because I can actually see if the camera's open here. So 3, 2, 1. About the same there. So that is interesting. Let's switch to the front-facing cameras. Pretty much the same, maybe a little bit quicker with the iPhone 10 here. Let's go back home. Next up, we're going to open a pretty big app, a game for that matter here, and that is Pubg Mobile. So 3, 2, 1, go. And the iPhone is already pulling ahead. This is where the A12 will surpass the 855. That has seemed to be the case for the past couple years between, Apple processors and the Snapdragon ones. So the iPhone XS Max has clearly finished first here, has really crushed the app opening of PUBG. The Note 10 is still, trying to get everything together here, so we'll wait until it does. And boom. So in terms of the app opening of Pubg Mobile, the iPhone slayed and the Note 10 took quite a bit more time here. I don't think that's going to translate to, actual gameplay because both of these devices have really good, GPU, CPU specifications. However, I do think it has to do with optimization because as we know, iOS has, just a select few phones that it runs on and like the Metal API and whatever, fewer things to optimize, whereas with Android, you have a bunch of different handsets and, Google and PUBG can't, optimize everything perfectly. So I think that explains what happened here. Next up, we're going to run some benchmarks with Geekbench here, so I'm going to run a CPU benchmark. So as you can see here, the Snapdragon 855 comes a little bit behind the A12 here. However, you do get 4 times the amount of RAM with this phone in comparison to this one. 11.2 gigs, 12 gigs versus 3.65 gigs or 4 gigs, like what the company tells you, but obviously you get less in reality. Next up, we're going to run some Antutu benchmarks, so let's open that app. And we're going to begin the GPU testing in 3, 2, 1. So the XS Max finished first here, so I'm not going to rate the app. So we got a score of 347,261. And the Note 10 follows with an even higher score of 371,703. So it's not always the first that, wins the race that actually wins it overall. So let's see how this breaks down here. So if we look at the breakdown here in terms of CPU performance, the Note 10 was beaten by the XS Max because the A12, as we saw with Geekbench, is just a more powerful CPU. But in regard to all the other categories, the Note 10 pulled ahead here, especially in the GPU performance here. As we can see, it scored 159,292 compared to 144,000. That is a significant increase over the XS Max, and that will result in higher frame rates and better gameplay, I would imagine. With the UX, it actually got a higher score as well, so just the overall, user experience and image processing, it scored a lot higher than the iPhone did, 78,372 versus 62,474. And then in terms of the memory, this is where the Note 10 just demolishes the iPhone XS Max, because as we had established, there was 4 times the amount of RAM in here. So the RAM score was 17,463 compared to 9,463. While the RAM itself might be a little bit slower, as it seems the ROM score is much, much higher. And I assume that's because of the presence of 12 gigabytes of RAM on here versus the 4 found in the iPhone. So before we wrap things up here, I just want to see how things have held up in the app switcher. So let's go back to, I don't know, the app stores here. So let's tap on both. Both are loaded up. Let's go back a little further. Let's go into Geekbench. Both are loaded up, no refresh. Let's go into Pubg Mobile. And it seems that the Note 10 had to reload that. Interesting. So even though we have a lot more RAM here, this game did have to refresh. Again, it might be an optimization thing, or it might just be, worse RAM management. Let's go ahead and open up Instagram. And I guess there was a little bit of reloading, but for the most part, none that I could really see with both of these devices. Let's go back even further. Let's open the YouTube apps. Both are opened on these devices, no refresh. Let's go back even further. Let's open up Spotify. And both were ready to go. How about let's try Chrome? And that seems to have not reloaded on either of these devices. Last up, let's try Amazon. And here's where the iPhone had to reload. So for the most part, the iPhone XS Max has done a fantastic job with RAM management. However, the 12 gigabytes of RAM on here will supersede the 4 you find on this device. So we're pushing it to its limits here, but I'm actually really impressed with how the iPhone has held up in terms of multitasking. Let's quickly try toggling, the voice assistants here. What's the weather like right now?
You might want to take an umbrella.
So it was a little bit quicker with the Note 10 here, but pretty much the same across the board. So what should be our takeaway from these tests here? Well, both of these devices are incredibly capable, even the iPhone XS Max almost a year after its launch. The Snapdragon 855 and the 812 are both really high-end processors and push a really nice user experience with both these devices. App launching was a little bit quicker with the Note 10 here, but it was pretty smooth with the iPhone as well. Multitasking was pretty much the same as well. However, I think it would have been better with the Note 10 with all that extra RAM. So if we would have had more apps open, we would have seen more having to refresh with the XS Max. In terms of benchmarks, I mean, while the CPU score was higher with the iPhone, the GPU, the RAM, and other scores were higher with the Note 10 because some of its specifications are obviously better, like we established, like the GPU and the amount of RAM. Game launching was quicker with the iPhone. Surprise, surprise, that always seems to be the case. And that has to do with, the A12 and just the metal engine and just optimization in general with iOS and the hardware found on the iPhone. So yeah, I guess to those of you who are like, Samsung is trash and the Note 10 is going to drop frames and it's going to be a horrible experience because it's a Samsung phone, I hope this, gave you some perspective. The Samsung One UI is really, really excellent, especially when paired with such a high-end processor. I don't think it's like the OnePlus experience. It's not as blazing fast, but it is definitely close to it and is very comparable to the iPhone, as we can see here. And at the end of the day, I don't think you can go wrong with either of these devices. Both push a really nice user experience. Both will enable you to play games at high frame rates, do any other heavy lifting tasks, and the everyday things very, very smoothly. And that about wraps things up. I hope this video helped you out. If you're looking to purchase the Note 10 Plus, it is an excellent performer. However, I would wait for my eventual, iPhone 11 Max or Pro versus Note 10 video to decide whether you want an iPhone or this phone. But yeah, both are incredible performers, and you can't really go wrong with either, I would say. I'd really appreciate it if you leave a like on this video, comment if you have any questions, suggestions, or opinions, and subscribe for more content like this. And as always, I'm Noah, and I will catch you all in the next one.